I'm guessing all of you read the title and clicked on this video because you wanted to know exactly what a theme park glow-up is. By my definition, it is a park that looks unrecognizable to how it did a decade ago, and in this video, we're going to rank the top 10 parks that grew up the most substantially in that time frame. When I use the words glow up, I'm not just referring to the addition of a bunch of coasters, though that could play a huge role in this, but I'm also taking into account how the park looks and also the overall improvements. And also, despite what the title says, parks on this list may be on here not because they had a glow up, but maybe they changed negatively. So now that that's clear, here's a few things I wanted to add in. One, I'm not going to be including parks that significantly grew a while back. Like, we all know about the Disney California Adventure situation, but that wasn't exactly as recent as I'm wanting to talk about. I'm going to try and make this as recent as I possibly can, again by featuring parks that look unrecognizable or who have changed a lot over the past decade. Let me also mention that this is going to be very American-centric, as I'm not totally aware of what's going on in places like Asia and some of Europe. But with that being said, I think we're all ready to begin, except for the fact that you should go like, comment, and subscribe real quick. But anyways, here are my top 10 theme park glow-ups over the past decade. Let's dive in. As an honorable mention, let's briefly talk about the Hong Kong Disneyland Park. Opening in 2005, this all started when Disney wanted to further expand their portfolio of amusements to Asia. They had already done so in Tokyo with 2 separately gated parks, and that was generally a big success. Now, the same can't exactly be said about the Hong Kong property. Attendance was lower than expected from the beginning, and thus Disney hasn't always treated this park as well as some of their others. But as of recent, they've really started to unleash this park's potential and are now working to expand it with the usage of $1.4 billion. Currently, we are in the midst of this expansion, and it is said to go on until 2023 with a new castle, Frozen Land, Marvel Land, and much more. The reason this didn't quite make the top 10 is because the completion of this expansion won't be done for a couple more years, but I still thought it deserved a mention because Disney is really showing a lot of love to their Hong Kong park. Now let's get into the actual top 10 list. Number 10, California's Great America in Santa Clara, California. About a decade ago, when Cedar Fair acquired the park, that's when changes really started to take place. Obviously, they had to take out all the Paramount's branding, but also in 2013, they made their first big investment with Gold Striker. This was an incredible addition to the park, but following this project, nothing much was really going on. It seemed like the park's growth had hit a halt, and who knew for how long. That was until 2016, when Cedar Fair released a 20-year master plan in expanding the park like crazy. As it seems right now, the expansion has slowed down significantly and some parts of it may have been cancelled, but we still have seen a couple large investments put into place, which is a great thing. In terms of coasters, Vortex was transformed into the Floorless Patriot for the 2017 season, and then Railblazer and RMC Raptor coaster opened in 2018. Also, the park is investing into a whole new water park that's now set to open in 2021. But still to come, there should be an Impulse coaster and some sort of hypercoaster built here sometime down the line. Like I said, we aren't totally aware of the status of those rides, but hopefully they're still in the works. I'm genuinely really excited for this park's future, and I'm glad Cedar Fair is seeing the ever-growing potential of California's Great America. Number 9, Universal's Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. This seems like a park that Universal just loves, and for good reason too. It has been nothing but successful since its opening in 1999. Now when you really think about it, this park is really going full force into the Orlando market in terms of competition. There is so much going in the area right now with Disney and SeaWorld constantly making investments into their parks, so it only makes sense that Universal joins in. Some recent additions that particularly stand out are the transformation of the Dueling Dragons Plot-O-Land to Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure and the all-new Intamin Blitz coaster Velocicoaster. But also you had some other attractions pop in like the immensely popular Skull Island Reign of Kong in 2016. In my opinion, this seems to just be the start of this park's growth. I wouldn't be surprised if next they transform the Jurassic Park ride into something bigger and better, similar to what the Hollywood Park has done. But regardless of what happens, we can always count on any Orlando park really to just expand exponentially, and this place is really no exception at all. Number 8, Carowinds in Charlotte, North Carolina. Since 2010, Cedar Fair has really been spoiling this park, and for good reason too. They see it as a gold mine, being in the fast-growing city of Charlotte, North Carolina. It all started with the addition of Intimidator in 2010, but that was only to build up for what the company would soon unleash. In 2015, Fury 325 opened to the public as the world's tallest Giga Coaster. That's a record that it still holds today, and a ride that's been widely acclaimed by just about everyone. Just a couple years later, in 2019, the park debuted Copperhead Strike, which was one of the most expensive investments in the park's history at $26 million. So not only does this park see a new coaster addition every couple years, but they are also very expensive additions. I already touched on Copperhead's $26 million, but Fury and Intimidator are both very pricey B&M coasters that stand over 230 feet. If this doesn't tell you how much Cedar Fair loves this place, I don't know what does. The amount of money they've spent here has been ridiculous, but they know that it's always worth the return in investment. Number 7, Kings Island in Mason, Ohio. Yet another Cedar Fair park, Kings Island has had its fair share of good and bad moments. Mostly good though, as Cedar Fair also heavily invested into this place. Every few years, they seem to get a new coaster addition, similar to Carowinds really. In 2009, Diamondback had just opened alongside Son of Beast removal, and then 2014 brought Banshee into the park. Next up, they received Mystic Timbers in 2017, a ride that doesn't exactly break a ton of records, but it's just quality all around. And then following these 3 coasters, Orion opened in 2020 in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic as the tallest and fastest coaster in the park's history. But it hasn't always been rainbows and unicorns for this park. Kings Island had to make some tough decisions to make way for the future, starting with the demolition of Firehawk in 2018. That was sad, but wasn't unreasonable considering the rumored Giga Coaster. But then they removed yet another high-maintenance coaster, Vortex, in 2019, which really pulled some heartstrings. There hasn't been a replacement announcement for this ride yet, but I'm almost certain that their next big coaster will be placed right there. But just to think, a little over a decade ago, Diamondback, Banshee, Mystic Timbers, and Orion didn't exist, while Son of Beast, Firehawk, and Vortex were still operating. It's been a crazy series of events at Kings Island, so you can't deny that they've changed enough to be featured on this list. Number 6, Dollywood in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. I'm sure all of you are already aware of Dollywood's rapid growth. Herschend Entertainment has really been treating this park well, especially as of recent. Not only am I talking about rides and roller coasters though, which I will talk about in a second, but even general park improvements. They have always put attention into how the park looks, different events during different seasons, food and restaurants, and the list goes on. Now in terms of coasters, you can expect to see a new one every few years at Dollywood. I'm aware that it's a reoccurring theme in this video, but when the statement is true for a park, you know they're on a roll. In this park's case, you've got Wild Eagle in 2012, Fire Chaser Express in 2014, Lightning Rod in 2016, Whistle Punk Chaser in 2017, and Dragon Flyer in 2019. Plus, from my knowledge, they are still in talks to expand the new Wildwood Grove area and invest into what seems to be a large-scale B&M hyper. There's no way of telling what the status of that is, but even without it, you cannot deny the fast expansion of Dollywood. Hats off to Herschend because they really know what they're doing with this place. Number 5, SeaWorld San Diego in San Diego, California. I am actually really happy having SeaWorld as a home park because it seems as if there's always something new going on every single year. As most of you know, following the Blackfish incident, SeaWorld has taken drastic measures in focusing on rides and roller coasters opposed to animals. Even if you hate to admit it, it's only been a success story thus far, and that's especially true for the San Diego park. A decade ago, we had Journey to Atlantis, and that was literally it. No Manta, no Electric Eel, no Emperor, just a water coaster. So the fact that we are now receiving coasters just about every year is an amazing thing. That factor alone really shows that this park is one of the fastest growing in the United States. There's not much more I can add, but seriously, 4 new coasters in 1 decade with more likely on the horizon is no small feat. Number 4, Universal Studios Japan in Osaka, Japan. Originally, I wasn't planning on putting this park on the list, but then I realized something insane. With Hogsmeade in 2014 and Super Nintendo World in 2021, they've constructed arguably the 2 best theme park areas within the same decade. That is absolutely crazy, especially because they are in the same park. Plus, you can combine that with the fact that they've debuted Flying Dinosaur in 2016, and it just really shows that Universal is serious about expanding into the Asia market. It especially seems that way with the fact that they're opening Universal Studios Beijing this year. I can only hope that that park has a similar success story to this one. I had known for a while that this was an extremely popular park, like it had always gotten higher attendance numbers than expected. And now I realize that Universal is in turn treating this property the way it deserves to be treated, so good on you, Universal. Number 3, Phantasialand in Brühl, Germany. Like Universal Studios Japan, I wasn't thinking hard enough about just how fast this park's grown. It's really amazing to me that nearly all of their amazing rides and lands came as recent as 2014. It started with Chiapas and the Mexico area that year, followed by Terran and Klukheim in 2016. The latter has been extremely successful and well received all around. Now, most recently, we've seen Fly and Rookburg open in 2020, which once again are jaw-dropping. It seems that Phantasialand cannot do anything wrong. Every single edition always seems to be as good as it possibly could be. It's clear to me that this park has a huge focus on quality over quantity, which is something that I personally really appreciate. Number 2, Kennywood in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania. Earlier in the video, I said that not all the parks on this list were on here for a good reason, despite the fact that the title says Glow Up in it. Kennywood is unrecognizable in a way where they've seemed to shift their focus from classic, old-timey, and local to modern and corporate. Not all of their decisions have been bad, but it seems like they've been removing classic rides faster than they can replace them. And when I say replace them, I'm talking about modern rides and roller coasters that really shouldn't fit into this park. And I say shouldn't because it's kinda already too late. I don't look at this park as a wonderful beautiful old school property. I look at something like Canobie's that way. Instead, Kennywood has done some questionable things that many, including myself, are not too happy about. The biggest change seems to be the addition of Steel Curtain in 2019, which appears to be a great ride, but it doesn't really make sense here, especially right alongside a racer. A similar thing can be said about Skyrocket towards the front of the park. Far worse, we've recently learned that they would be removing 4 extremely rare classic flat rides. Kangaroo, Paratrooper, Barren Curve, and Volcano bit the dust during this past off-season. The park stated that even in a historic landmark, change is constant at Kennywood, but my question to them is, are these changes really beneficial? I get that it's costly, but classic is what they've strived for since the beginning, so I personally don't approve much of their decisions. But hey, let me know what you think down in the comments. Number 1, Energylandia in Zadar, Poland. The year was 2014, very recent, and the year that we would all learn about a new Polish theme park. At the time, I can't imagine that any enthusiast thought much of it, but since then, they've invested in 18 total roller coasters. Yes, you heard that right, 18 coasters. Albeit, many are family rides and are clones, but it's still an impressive lineup when you consider what's at the top. I mean, seriously, if you just look at Zadra, Hyperion, and Abyssus, the 3 coasters that might shape the best top 3 lineup in the world. And let me reiterate that this has all been done within 7 freaking years. Six Flags Magic Mountain, which is currently the park with the most coasters, has been building up their impressive lineup since 1971. Again, that's impressive in itself, but compare that to Energylandia's outrageous growth, and they are on track to beat that record in such a short timeline. It's also not just coasters. This place has been investing in new areas such as Aqualantis and Dragon Zone. So you tell me, has any park expanded at a rate quicker than Energylandia, let alone over the past decade? I'm honestly doubtful, but I'd be curious to hear what you guys think down below. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. I had a ton of fun with this one, so if you could drop a comment down below of other theme park glow-ups that I may have missed, I'd be more than happy to check them out. Also, if you like what you saw, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, as it shows a lot of support. But other than that, I hope you all enjoyed once again, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys.